It's midnight. You have to be up in 6 hours. You know this. You've done the math at least 3 times, and yet here you are, still awake, not watching anything important, not doing anything urgent, just existing in the dark and the quiet while the rest of the world sleeps. And here's the strange part. You're not even tired. Or maybe you are, a little. But something in you just refuses to end the day. Something keeps pulling you back to the glow of the screen, or the stillness of the room, or the spiral of thoughts that only seem to arrive after midnight. People who don't do this think it's self-sabotage. They think you're just bad at discipline. But psychology tells a completely different story. And once you understand what's actually happening in your brain at 1 a.m., you'll never feel guilty about it the same way again. Let's start with something researchers only recently put a name to, because it turns out this is far more widespread than anyone realized. Psychologists call it revenge bedtime procrastination. Dutch researcher Floor Kroeze found that people who experience low levels of personal freedom during the day are significantly more likely to delay sleep at night. Not because they're lazy, but because nighttime becomes the only space that truly belongs to them. Think about that for a second. Your day was scheduled from the moment you woke up. Meetings, obligations, the performance of being available, productive, pleasant. You didn't choose the pace of it. You didn't choose most of what filled it, and your brain noticed. Every hour that passed without real autonomy was quietly logged somewhere beneath your awareness as a small, accumulating debt. And now it's midnight. The debt is due, not in chaos or rebellion, just in this. A quiet, stubborn refusal to hand the day over until you've had even a few hours that were entirely, unconditionally yours. This isn't weakness. This is your mind reclaiming what the day took from it. But there's something deeper happening too, something neurological. When the world goes quiet and the demands disappear, a specific network in your brain activates. Neuroscientists call it the default mode network. It's the system that runs when you're not focused on any external task. And for most people, it gets suppressed during the day. Every notification, every obligation, every conversation you have to navigate shuts it down. But at night, after midnight, it finally gets space to do what it was built for. Self-reflection, emotional processing, creative connection, the kind of thinking that doesn't arrive during daylight. This is why your best ideas show up at 2 a.m. Why the solution to the problem you've been staring at all week suddenly surfaces when you're lying in the dark doing nothing. Why the thoughts about your own life, your relationships, the things you actually want, seem to only come when everything else has gone quiet. Your brain isn't misfiring. It's running exactly the program it was designed to run. It just needs the world to stop first. And now let's talk about who experiences this most intensely. Because if you're someone who regularly stays up late for what looks like no reason, there's a very specific profile that psychology keeps returning to. You are almost certainly someone who thinks deeply, not necessarily about profound things, sometimes about nothing in particular. But your mind doesn't sit still. It observes, connects, revisits, reconstructs. It takes the texture of the day and turns it over quietly in the dark. That conversation this morning, that thing someone said that didn't land right, that idea that surfaced and then got buried under everything else. Night is when you finally get to think about it properly. A 2021 study published in the Journal of Research and Personality found that self-described night owls scored significantly higher on measures of openness to experience and cognitive complexity. They were more likely to seek out novel ideas, tolerate ambiguity, and engage in introspective thinking. In other words, the people who stay up late aren't avoiding their lives. They're processing them. There's another piece to this that doesn't get talked about nearly enough, and it has to do with something psychologists call autonomy need. Humans require a felt sense of personal agency to function well. When that need goes unmet during the day, when you've spent hours responding to the world on its terms, the brain doesn't just let it go. It seeks restoration. Night becomes that restoration. The house is quiet. No one needs anything. No one is watching. The rules of the day, the performance of competence, cheerfulness, availability, all of it suspends. And for the first time in hours, you're just yourself. Not a role, not a function, just a person, alone with their thoughts, in a room where nothing is required. For people who spend their days highly tuned to others, reading the room, managing energy, navigating social complexity, that solitude isn't emptiness. It's oxygen. It's the thing their nervous system has been quietly starving for since morning, so they stay in it as long as they can. Now here's something worth sitting with, honestly, because not all late-night wakefulness is the same. Psychologists recognize two distinct types. The first is what we've been describing: creative, restorative, autonomous. The brain doing its best private work in the only quiet hours available. The second is different. It's avoidance wearing the mask of autonomy. Staying awake not because the night feels rich, but because sleep feels like surrender. Like the day didn't go the way it should have, and closing your eyes means it's over without resolution. The honest question isn't just, why do you stay up late? It's, what are you waiting for when you do? If your answer involves creativity, quiet, processing, the particular pleasure of a world that isn't asking anything of you, that's one thing. If your answer involves dread of tomorrow, something unresolved, a low hum of anxiety that only sleep would end, that's worth paying attention to. Not because something is wrong with you, but because you deserve to know which version of this is actually yours. But here's what most people get completely wrong about night owls. They assume it's a failure of discipline. Too much screen time, not enough self-control. The standard narrative is that morning people are productive and serious about their lives, and night people are just resisting. The science doesn't support this. Research on chronotype shows that your natural preference for morning or evening activity is substantially genetic. Estimates suggest it's heritable to a degree comparable to height. About 30% of people are genuine night owls by biology. Their circadian rhythms run on a different clock. Their cortisol spikes later. Their cognitive peak arrives after dark. These people aren't fighting sleep. They're fighting a world that was built for a different biological schedule than theirs. And in that gap between who they are and when the world expects them to function, the late night hours become something almost protective. A pocket of time where their actual rhythm is finally in sync with what's being asked of them. Which is nothing. Just existing. Just being. There's one more layer here, and it might be the most quietly important of all. People who stay up late for seemingly no reason are often people with a very rich inner world. They think in spirals. They feel things with unusual depth. They notice details during the day that most people walk straight past. And all of that noticing, all of that feeling and connecting and processing has to go somewhere. During the day, there's no room. Too much noise, too many people, too many external demands competing for the same internal bandwidth. But at night, in the quiet, in the particular stillness of a house that has finally gone still, all of that internal life gets space to breathe. The late night isn't the problem. For many people, it's the solution. The one daily interval where the outer world quiets enough for the inner world to speak. And maybe that's the thing worth understanding most clearly. People who stay up late for no reason almost always have a reason. It's just one that lives below the surface of what others can easily see. They're not undisciplined. They're not self-destructive. They're people whose minds needed more hours than the day offered, and they found them in the only place left, in the dark. In the quiet, in the small, unhurried hours when the world finally stopped asking them to be something else. So tell me, are you someone who stays up late and can't fully explain why? Or have you always known exactly why and just never had the words for it until now? Drop it in the comments. And if this felt uncomfortably accurate, the next video goes even deeper into the psychology of people who live most vividly inside their own mind. I think you'll recognize yourself in it.